You're a mum, you're a mum, you're a busy mum. Come listen to the Busy Mum podcast. Life hacks and inspiration for the busy modern mum.
Hi and welcome to the Busy Mum podcast. I am your host, Jackie DeCampo. This podcast's sole focus is to interview busy mums and sometimes dads that usually have a business or at the very least a bustling side hustle. We cover areas like why they got into business in the first place, what their greatest lessons are or fear is, and how to overcome that. We talk all things marketing, advertising, systems, processes, cash flow, which is my favorite part, whether they have a product-based business or a service-based business, and all things related to business. And also, we talk about how they manage it with a family life as well. A little bit about me. I'm 38 years old, married to Ben DeCampo. We have 2 daughters. I am a co-founder of Milkman Grooming Co. I host this podcast and I am a mad keen gardener. If you want to share your story, please reach out, or if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, again, please reach out. My packages are very reasonable. My email is thebusymumpodcast, that's M-U-M, podcast @gmail.com. Now let's dive into this bloody fantastic episode. Okay, Sandra, welcome to the Busy Mum podcast. How are you this morning?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. We had a few technical difficulties, but we got there at the end. Oh, my goodness. I love technology when it works, but when it doesn't, oh, my God, it gives me the shits. Yes.
Anxiety is the roof. Why isn't it working? What's going on? I'm technologically challenged myself, so anything related to tech, I start sweating.
I know, and when it works, I get so surprised. It really, I amaze myself that I can connect a printer. I just think I am the best when that happens. It's like, yes. And sometimes all it takes is switching off the printer and switching it back on again. So, yeah, crazy. So just tell my audience a little bit about yourself. How do you find yourself, and what is your business and your family life and all that jazz?
Yes, and sometimes it just feels one huge thing and you can't separate one from the other. And I found that, since having my own business, I thought initially, I'm just going to have this work-life balance. I'm going to own my business and I'm going to decide. And then it hit me. It's actually the other way around. When you have your own business, you work harder and longer because you have this reputation that you want to maintain. And, I'm a psychologist, so I see clients and I get referred clients and I don't want to turn clients away. And so, 2 days extended to 3 days and then 3 days extended to 3.5 days and every second Saturday. And I'm like, where is my work-life balance?
Oh, it doesn't exist, Sandra. It does not exist. I've tried it. I thought, work-life balance. And I went from the 2 days and now I work school hours 5 days and one Saturday or Sunday. I work on the weekends, either one of those days. So
yes, so do I. And it just, it took a life of its own and I don't know what's going on. But, I'm trying to do better with my boundaries and, be stricter. And, but I think when in the initial stages of building a brand and a reputation, you're a bit more lenient, and then, you tighten the boundaries as your business progresses and you grow and your name is out there. So I'm a child and adolescent psychologist by profession, and I also lecture at one of the big universities in Melbourne, and I clinically supervise students on placement. And I'm a busy mum of 3 kids.
Wow.
I've got a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old who is super, super, super active and keeps me busy. And I've got my lovely and supportive husband of 14 years now. We've been married, and we try to make it work, and we somehow survive. So I'm happy about that.
That's an achievement in itself, really, these days, isn't it?
So, we're all alive in the morning. We wake up. Good. It's
excellent. Good. Oh, yeah, we had a terrible morning this morning, and I know it's because of lack of sleep. My 6-year-old went to bed at 10 o'clock last night, and I'm like, when I put her to bed, I'm like, you're going to be grumpy in the morning. And she's like, I'll just sleep in a bit. She didn't. And then she complained about how ugly she looked in her school uniform. And I was like, I think you're a bit tired. You don't look ugly. You're just a little bit tired. We talked about this last night. So
fatigue is a killer for children and adults.
Oh,
So
especially for children. Like, I think with adults, you can kind of rationalize it going, yeah, I'm just tired. But with kids, they're like hysterical. Like, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What actually made you go into this line of work, Sandra?
Oh, good question. This is going to go back many, many, many years. I think, look, in school, I did find it really difficult to fit in. There was some bullying going on. I experienced some bullying. I was immigrated from another country, so English wasn't my first language. Moved a few schools, and found it really difficult to connect with other kids. And I thought, if I could somehow work in a profession to make a difference and help other kids in similar or unsimilar situations, then I think that would be really rewarding. And I investigated what sort of line of work I could do, and psychology just kept popping up. Supporting kids therapeutically. Funnily enough, somehow I got more into supporting kids who have experienced abuse and neglect. So I worked for the department for a few years in child protection, and then I moved on to supporting victim survivors of sexual abuse, and that became my passion, educating the community, educating parents about protective behaviours, about body safety. And I've been running a workshop for several years now on protective behaviours and teaching parents and empowering them to protect children from predators.
Yeah.
So that sort of led me, and I was in the government working for the department supporting victim survivors until I really felt I needed a little bit sort of to get out of that space a little bit, because I was feeling it was affecting my ability to parent my children, and it was sort of skewing a little bit my vision of the world, being surrounded by that every day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You would have seen some pretty horrific things go on, and
Yes.
that's not the norm. Let me tell you now, like, that is not normal to do that. And when you are exposed to that, like, day on day, it becomes your reality a little bit, doesn't it? So,
Yeah, absolutely. It's I was in that space for over 10 years, and even though I felt so rewarded helping these children and young adults, and it was fantastic, but it was sort of affecting my well-being towards the end, and I just needed a little bit more variety. However, funnily enough, I did move in, and I do have more variety in what I do now, but there's not many psychologists who are comfortable to work in this space, and therefore I keep receiving referrals to support victim survivors, and I can't say no. I'm experienced. I can do it, and so I'm still supporting victim survivors, but just trying to get a bit more balance and a bit more variety in what I do professionally.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to protect your mental health as well as
absolutely.
Support. So how long has your business been running for?
So I started my business, I was on mat leave a year and a half ago, and I thought, when I finish with mat leave, I'll start. So started in July of 2007.
Okay.
And then, slowly sort of developed from there, and have my own clinic now, and very, very happy. And I think that's sort of where I'm at the moment until my new adventure, which I might mention a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, actually, I did have a little sticky beak at your website, and I noticed, and I haven't seen this done before, but you've actually got, I'm just going to go on it now, you've got like a few downloads. They're audio downloads, is that correct?
No, they're webinars.
Oh,
so
webinars?
They're audio and visual.
Oh,
yes.
Beautiful. So, like, for instance, like a big thing in year 3 and 4, I find with girls is that the friendship circles are they get tested quite a lot. So as a mum, you hear a lot of these stories, or this person ditched me, they won't play with me anymore, they're being nasty. My kids are quite small, so some of their friends are picking them up and walking them around like they're babies. So I suppose that is a form of bullying, I suppose. And I don't know exactly what to say to them, but like I've looked on here and you've actually got something on here. It's like, friends are important to children, but what can we do when things go wrong? And there's like 76 minutes of a webinar here that you can listen to for quite a cheap price, I must say, to give you some insight. Like that's really a good resource that you've got there for adults, for parents out there.
For parents, there's just, since coming into the private sector, I have been, advertising and getting yourself out there. I've been in social media, in the web, in that space often. Mm-hmm. And I keep seeing, people that call themselves experts, call themselves coaches, call themselves parenting, whatever, but they don't have the credentials, they don't have the experience, they have just reading ability. Mm-hmm. So they read this information and they think that it's okay to just relay it back and put some marketing behind it. And that's not okay. That's not okay. And, people, parents who are struggling and have that need would, access this information, and some of it is damaging, some of it is very concerning. And I thought, someone has to do something about it. So what I've done is sourced out, registered psychologists who not only have the research backing to their practice and to the webinar and presentations, but also they have the experience, because sometimes research is not practical. Not every piece of research is doable. Like the latest one that I read, I've got 3 kids, 2-year-olds don't have screen access. Well, try that with 3 kids, 2 older ones who, want to watch something or have access to, it's just impossible. And so when you tell a parent, make sure that your 2-year-old doesn't have access to that, research might say, that's what you should do, but practically, I'm not so sure that's to do. I haven't been able to do that. And so, things like that, set parents to fail because they think, oh my God, this is what research tells me. This is what I have to do. And when they don't succeed, what do? They internalize it. Yeah, and then they've got that self-doubt and saying, I'm not a good parent because I can't achieve what research tells me that I should. So I think there needs to be that experience in knowing how to implement research into practice, and that's what our psychologists can do. So those webinars are practical techniques and strategies, less fluff. Yeah. They talk a little bit about statistics and a little bit about research to give context, but the majority of the webinars are practical techniques and strategies, what you can do right now until you get professional help, support, until you can access your GP, until you can get referral to see a professional. This is going to be fantastic to access right now.
But even when you are referred onto a professional, they might not be the right professional, because as you said, a lot of people that are saying, I can do this, but then you go see them and they don't actually do what you need them to do. So parents have to go to the net to kind of research it a little bit further to see, because, you've got the best interest of your child as priority, whereas someone else really doesn't.
Absolutely. And parents don't know what they don't know. I'm a child and adolescent psychologist, but I don't have expertise in everything related to child and adolescence. And parents sometimes don't understand that just because you have that title doesn't mean you're an expert or you specialize in certain disorders or mental health conditions. My expertise are in trauma. I work a lot with abuse and neglect. So that's where my expertise are. I don't work a lot with kids on the spectrum, and therefore, if someone called me and said, I want my child diagnosed or my child's on the spectrum, I want support, then I might say, you know what, I'm probably not the best person to see because I don't specialize in that. And so, a lot of parents don't know that. They think, everyone's calling themselves a psychologist or a child and adolescent, therefore they must be able to have expertise or specialize in all areas of that space, and that's just not true. And so our experts on the web provide webinars on topics that they specialize in and that they have expertise in. and we quality control to make sure content is up to scratch.
Okay. So talking about your business, not what you do in business, but about the actual business structure that you've taken on board here. So you've got one arm which is doing obviously one-on-one meetings, is that correct? That you're doing appointments. And then this is your other arm of the business where you've gone and sourced webinars from other experts to be like evergreen income for you. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And why did you do that?
Because I thought about how to scale. How do I scale myself? How do I provide additional income? How can I replicate myself? Don't we all want to replicate ourselves, right? Yeah. How do I replicate myself in a way that, will allow me to have additional funding source 24 hours, 7 days a week that's going to work for me when I'm not working, actively working on it. Mm-hmm. And my business, my physical business where I work therapeutically with clients, that requires me to be present. I have to actually be present. And unless I want to add additional clinicians to my clinic, there's really no other way to scale. And so I thought, okay, what need is there out there that I can utilize my skills in a way that's going to work for me 24/7? Then I thought, the World Wide Web. I mean, that, that's open 24/7, 365 days a year. I could work in the back end and it keeps streaming, even when I'm not actively working on it. Yeah.
And it's called Nucleus?
Nucleusly. Yes.
Nucleusly, .com. Yes. And it's got like quite a few different, how many webinars have you got now? You've got quite a few on there.
Yeah, at the moment we've got around 21 webinars. Yeah. However, we are going to be adding webinars weekly. So we already have some webinars ready to be uploaded again. And we constantly are going to have new topics added. We really don't want to have multiple webinars of a single topic. So we're looking at expand our topics rather than providing more than one webinar on any particular topic. So it's really worthwhile subscribing because we're going to be sending out mails out when new webinars come up on the website. And like our Facebook page, we'll definitely keep that updated. This is all really new, so we're learning as we progress, absolutely, because I'm not a social media specialist by any means. And so we're relying on other experts as well to collaborate with us and work with us and guide us, obviously, in this space. But we're passionate about it. So we hope that it's going to succeed.
It's going to be a great resource. Like, I think it's a really good idea. And let's just touch on the marketing. So you're talking about, are you obviously leveraging off those other expertise databases? Is this how you're getting that website out there? Or are you doing some paid advertising, or like you obviously come onto podcasts and stuff and talk about your services that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, getting myself out there to explain, because there's really nothing like this out in the web. So educating. We really need to educate parents about its existence and about what differentiates this platform from anything else that might be similar out there. So I think that's sort of, I guess, an extra element that we've got to consider, the educational element of the branding and getting the website out there. And I think what better way of using my own expertise as getting parents to trust that I know what I'm doing. And so, interviews and getting my knowledge out there and rationalizing why we've got this is definitely key. And I think engaging, one of the really important elements of the webinar, and we insisted that the psychologists do this, is provide that visual element. And so they are recorded, they've got a webcam and they record themselves visually presenting the webinar. And that's really important for engagement. Yeah. And so I think I've got to practice what I preach, and I've got to get myself out there. Even though I'm not as comfortable as I might present. But so that's an important element, that engagement. And so, I might even put some stuff on Facebook, little clips of myself talking and maybe, using that advertisements as well on social media, and whatever else we can get our hands on. So some are going to be paid. I am reaching out on Facebook to parenting groups and speaking to the admins there and seeing whether it's something that their audience might be interested in, and so getting word out that way as well. So utilising paid and unpaid.
You're in Victoria, right? Victoria?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm in New South Wales in Sydney. But another one you can look at is Inner West Mums. So there's a lot of like pages like that or groups that are like that, and there's like 20,000 mums on there that you can. I think they offer some paid type of advertising on their actual group page, and I think they also have a website page as well. So I can give you those details afterwards
fantastic.
if you like.
Yes.
So let's move on. Just describe for us a day in the life of you.
Well, I thought I'll take my busiest day just to show sort of how I juggle and put multiple hats on.
Yeah.
So the busiest day would be probably Thursday, I would have to say. And my kids' school actually start relatively early. So that's good for me. I don't need before and after care because it fits well with my business and my client schedule as well. So I would probably, wake up around the 7-ish, wake everyone up. We try and prepare as much as we can the night before. That works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. Hit and miss really. But we try and get out of the house around 8-ish. And then, drop the kids off 8:15, and then my first client is usually 8:30, so try to sneak a session before school or early so kids can then get to school because I work with kids. And so many of them want either before school or after school, but obviously that can't always happen. Yeah. So 8:30, see my first client, and then last client around 3-ish, finish at 4, quickly run, grab my kids from school pickup, and then we start the after-school activities. So I'm around, and while I'm in the car, I try to listen to some podcasts, utilize my time efficiently. Some of them are not appropriate for them to be in the car for, so I try to manage that as well. And then drop them off at some program after school, then go and pick up my little one, 2.5-year-old from childcare around 5-ish, dinner at 6, kids at bed 7. My older ones usually like to read around 7. My younger one goes to sleep. And then Thursdays, 7:30, I've got my students. So I jump online, Skype for a couple of hours from 7:30 until 9:30. Support my students, and then it's my time, 9:30, to get to bed, not to sleep, to bed. And then I do some emails. So
in bed?
In bed.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. Everyone's going to say, oh, my God. They all recommend don't take work to bed with you. I try. I fail. I have to acknowledge that. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So I am acknowledging that. I am trying to put boundaries. But because it's a longer day, I sort of give myself permission to do that, but I don't do it every night. So I think that's my boundaries. I say, okay, if I feel like I have to, that's going to relieve my anxiety of doing some actual work.
Yeah.
On Thursdays when I run around a lot. But really I only have a couple of nights where I do that just because it's the busier days.
Yeah, busier days. Okay, and you've got here, my life hack would be to delegate. Your whole life or just little bits of it?
Look, I try to delegate as much as possible. I am a control freak, so that's difficult for me to do, but I've learned that I have to in order to try and replicate myself. Mm-hmm. But I do want to talk quickly. Maybe I'm going to give some parenting advice while I'm being interviewed in
do
this
it.
as well.
Do it.
A lot of parents think I'm going to do things quicker and better because it's going to help me in the short term. But this is what I recommend. I delegate a lot to my kids. And some parents think, oh, my God, when I tell them what my kids actually do, they're like, oh, my God, how can, you're 10 and 6, almost 7-year-old can actually, manage all of that. I thought, you know what? They learn. If you invest enough time to teach them, long term, you're going to benefit much more than if you try to get it done quicker right now and save yourself time right now, but then you have to keep doing it for much longer. And so, my kids make their own lunches, they make their own breakfast, they put their clothes away, sort out the laundry. They do a lot of chores.
Good.
Because first of all, they can. And second of all, it's part of the family and we help each other and we need to do things to be able to work and afford the other things that we want in life. And so I dedicate a lot of time to teach them short-term pain. It is a struggle at times to be consistent and persistent, but the long-term rewards are much greater.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I don't do it to that extent. It's more like I'm getting my 6-year-old to put the laundry down, and she does actually know how to use the washing machine, which is frightening. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And then, when she spills stuff on the floor, she does get the vacuum cleaner and vacuums it up, and I'm like, wow. So I have, on occasion, I'm not as persistent as you probably are, but I have tried to push the point a little bit. I don't get paid to do all this stuff, so you're not going to get paid to do it. It's for the greater good of the family, and I don't like living in a pigsty, and neither do you, so let's all band together. I still get a lot of backlash from my eldest daughter, though, because she doesn't want to do anything for anyone else. If she made the mess, she'll clean it up, but if her sister made the mess, we'll just sit there for an hour talking about how she didn't make the mess and her sister made the mess. And I'll be like, I don't really care who made the mess. You just need to clean it up. So it can be frustrating.
Absolutely. It can be tricky and frustrating. The earlier you start, the easier it will be because it'll become sort of the norm of your family. If you are starting a bit later, of course, they're not going to want to do something that they haven't done before. And if they can get away with it, they're going to push you as far as you can go. But as I keep saying, consistent and persistent is key.
Okay.
To anything, to any sort of new routine, new rule, new boundary, new structure you want to put in place, you have to be consistent and you have to be persistent and pace yourself. If they're not used to doing chores, don't start giving them a whole shopping list to go through. Target one thing at a time, and once that becomes the norm, once you sort of tick that off, they can do that independently, slowly introduce something else.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. And what's the best advice you've received, Sandra?
The best advice I received and I pass on is to keep reminding, parents and that things do pass, that it is difficult now because certain developmental stages with kids are a struggle and you want to pull your hair out, but it does pass. So just keep that in mind. Manage the best that you can, and self-care. Really take care of yourself and make sure that you dedicate that time to yourself because that recharges you. That's like, your battery, your phone battery runs out. You have to recharge it. Just think of the same analogy. You're not going to function as efficient if you don't recharge yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like 2019 is the year that everyone is talking about self-care. Really, it keeps popping up on socials and in mums groups and stuff like that, and everyone's like self-care, because I think maybe it's the age of our children, like when they get up to 6 and 7 and 8, like you've just been going full ball for like at least 5 years, and then you kind of go, wow, I'm really hitting the wall right now. So people are now taking a step back and, doing their nails or having a sleep in or things like that, like things that make you happy.
And that's really important, the follow through, because a lot of people talk about it, but they don't do it.
Yeah.
There needs to be the doing. There needs to be the action behind it, because otherwise nothing will change, right? And if you have good intentions and you talk, it has to follow through.
Yeah, and I do follow through, not all the time, but I do follow through, but then I feel guilty, so I've got to keep doing it and just go, no, can't be feeling guilty about that.
Remind yourself, absolutely.
It's not, it's if I don't look after myself, no one else is going to be looked after. So
absolutely, that is definitely the rationale. And kids, you're their role model. So if you don't look after yourself, how do you expect them to look after themselves?
yeah, and I can
You're demonstrating.
I can already see like these little habits that they're picking up, that they've picked up from me, which I am trying to break in myself, and they've already got them. And I'm like, oh, so it's that communication and making sure that they break that habit a lot earlier than myself. So it can, oh God.
I can already, this vision comes into my mind all the time about, just an example of that is, when I was a child anyway, there was that, saying don't drink, during the meal, right? Because it's going to feel, I still find myself doing that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm an adult, but my mum's voice is still running in my head. Don't have that drink during the meal. And, so these sort of habit, kids notice, kids pick things up, even though, you're not necessarily directly guiding them towards it. They notice. They're like sponges. They're radar.
Exactly, and they've got ears that listen around corners. So watch out. They're listening. They're always listening. So where do you go to get your entertainment? So we've got an array of things that we can choose from nowadays. We don't have to wait till 7 o'clock at night for our 9 o'clock whatever,
Yes.
Where do you go? Like Netflix, books, podcasts, YouTube? Like what's your go-to?
Look, one thing we don't have in the bedroom or in any room in the house aside from our lounge is a TV. So very rarely do I get to watch anything that's not related to Wiggles and so on. So Netflix, don't even know what that is. Books as well. There's so much information out there on the internet, so I don't get much opportunity. Podcasts, at times I do listen in the car to various podcasts around, my business and social media. And, I've only recently, I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm going to say it, only recently I've discovered what Instagram is. Good or not. I've never had an Instagram, and recently I've just discovered what that is. I'm still learning about that and how that works. I understand that it's only a visual picture thing. So
they've got some video. You can do video content now.
Oh, can you? There you go. I've just learned something new.
Yeah.
A few podcasts around that, really business-related stuff. YouTube, super rarely. I do YouTube. My main entertainment really comes from my kids. They're the best entertainers of all. So, they do shows and, sometimes they just want you to watch them and look at them and praise them. And you can be passive sitting there just looking and praising. And that's golden. They love that because they feel like you're giving them attention. And you're watching what they can do and you're praising them as they do it. So, I get singing performances and dances and concerts and drama and comedy. And they do stuff together as well and they role play. So I think that's the best entertainment of all. So I would definitely recommend that.
You know what my kids do sometimes? We always have this thing in our house where we try and scare each other, like hide behind doors and go, "Wah!"
Yes.
So they've got me a few times. But you can't be.
My little one's now running around saying, "Too scary, too scary."
But you can't be really you can't do it in the dark or anything like that because you could really. Scar them for life. So, what is your go-to dinner, Sandra?
I love cooking. I have to say that's my self-care. I love cooking. Going back to quickly YouTube, I love making decorative cakes.
Oh my God.
So when the kids were younger, I became a pro just from YouTube clips on how to use fondant and decorate cakes. So I love that. That is definitely a passion. But sometimes you need to go for the quick and easy, okay, because it's just no time. Yeah. So I try to think, okay, what's quick and easy that's healthy and that I can use whatever's in the fridge. So this is my trick, right? Wednesdays are usually our shopping days. Mm-hmm. So I try to be strategic. So Tuesdays, I want to get rid of as many sort of veggies, the old veggies that I have, and I just use all of the veggies and make roast chicken, whole chicken, get it in there, use whatever veggies I have left so I don't have to throw them out, throw that in there, that's it, bam.
Done.
You have roast chicken and veggies for dinner.
Yum. I'm coming to your house. There's one thing I just wanted to quickly tell you. On Instagram, I actually follow a hashtag called cake decorating.
Oh.
So you can actually follow hashtags as well as people and I think maybe locations. I'm not too sure. But if you follow a hashtag, you get in your feed, because it's similar to Facebook, all the different cakes that are decorated. It's so like.
But that's what the hashtags are for.
Yeah, to find what you're interested in.
I put it in. Really, I should investigate what. But everyone was doing it, so I thought, well, I'll just do it because everyone's doing it, and then I'll investigate what that's about later. No, okay, thank you for educating me.
Just one little thing. I'm gonna pass over what one area of your life you would improve, because we've already talked about self-care and how it's important, and that was your answer. So I'll skip to what's your greatest fear and how do you deal with it?
So I think we did touch a little bit on that earlier, and that is, my biggest fear is how my sort of professional working life is influencing my parenting, and I know that it sort of already has, especially when they were younger. As they get older, I sort of trust them a little bit more, but especially when they were younger, I noticed that, being surrounded by that world of, sexual abuse and having all that information definitely impacted my parenting. But my husband is fantastic at grounding me and getting me to just stop for a second and try to reevaluate certain situations realistically, like sleepovers and, all those new things that are coming out, and just letting go a little bit more, and, teaching your child how to help you to protect them in the long term, more than trying to sort of hover and keep them guarded and thinking that you can do it all, which is unrealistic, obviously.
Well, you got to give them the tools to protect themselves, because you can't be there all the time. It's like with the friendship circles at school, trying to give your kids the different tools and the different languages to use when they're in that situation. So they've got like a little toolkit in their brain that they can pull out at any time, because you can't be there standing up for them all the time.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay, so I've only got 3 quick questions, and then I'll let you get on with your day. Okay, question number 1. You haven't actually provided an answer, so the answer might be no. What websites have you signed up to recently that you find value in receiving their emails?
Yes. So, you know what? I have recently decluttered.
Oh.
I had to declutter, because even if I did previously sign up for anything, it sort of gets muddled up with things that I haven't signed on for, and I get somehow. So I unsubscribed, and I am going to start fresh. So at the moment, I have unsubscribed because I'm getting flooded, and I'm noticing that my inbox is not picking up those spammy ones as much as it should. So I haven't subscribed to anything lately, so I can't answer that. But thinking about it, it's probably going to be work-related.
Yeah, probably.
Somehow
that's
it's
all right.
Work-related.
And what's one piece of advice you would give your pre-baby self?
I'm just trying to make sure that because there was a few, and I did sort of think, which one am I, the one that I want to, so it does involve, self-care.
Yeah, it does. You said taking care of yourself is taking care of your family.
Absolutely.
I like
because a lot of people think, I'm going to put my family first, and they come first, and they're the most important thing. Absolutely. But by taking care of yourself, and by making sure that you're healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, that is taking care of your family. So just think of it in that sort of way, and especially becoming a parent, that adds so many more complexities and so many more responsibilities that you feel like you need to take a step back from yourself, and that's actually absolutely not the case at all.
Exactly. And final question, what is the most useful and useless baby item you have?
Yes. So the most useful, and I can't imagine how life was before I started using those, is wipes. And I don't have a baby as such that needs the wipes for that purpose. But, oh, my God, I need wipes everywhere. So I've started having wipes everywhere because they are so useful.
You kind of think, what is in the wipe that cleans everything? What is it? Because there's got to be something that's like completely, is it getting rid of all the germs? Because like even the wires and stuff for the computers, they get super dirty, and I use the wipes to clean them, and then I look at the wipe and go, gross.
Yeah, it's, on your clothes. Like, there's finger marks when they eat something and they just grab at you just a minute before you go out for work, and you're like, I don't have time to change, and he just grabbed me or wiped his snotty whatever on me and quickly grab a wipe, just give it a bit.
Done.
Good as new.
Beautiful.
So definitely wipes. Useless, so many.
Yeah, many.
I've recently started to declutter the baby stuff. He's 2.5, so we're starting to, there's no more. Shop is closed indefinitely. So I'm starting to get rid of stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, what did I even use that for? I can't even remember why I bought it and why I used it. So definitely too many to mention.
That's all right. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for being on the Busy Mum podcast. It's been a pleasure to speak with you this morning.
For having me.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Busy Mum podcast. Don't forget to let your friends know, and also subscribe to the iTunes channel, and also my socials if you want to see what I'm getting up to. A brand new episode is out every Monday morning, just like clockwork.